Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of a podcast where two guys get on the internet and talk about a sport that is three sports, which is triathlon. This podcast is Talking Triathlon. My name is Tim Ford. That is James Bale, who we're going to talk about a bit later, but is one of the best people to ever exist for the joy that he brought to my life. And I choose to believe many lives this week with one of the best set of race photos I've ever seen in my entire life. Jimbo, tell us about your race, and we can dissect those race photos a little bit later. But how was your race, mate? Because people want to know you did a 10K race over the weekend.
I did, yeah. I did a 10K road run over the weekend in Bristol. And Bristol is where I am at now. Another day, another podcast, another hotel room. But yeah, I'm currently in a hotel in Bristol, and yeah, did the 10K run on Sunday just to see how the legs were after all the injuries and stuff. And the race went very well, mate. 46 minutes 22 seconds, which will do me for where I'm at the moment. And then I clicked on the have a look at your race photos button on the email, and I don't think I've recovered, if I'm honest. I mean, you know when like you do a race and your race photos are never that good, are they? Because all these photographers on the race courses, they're not looking for that perfect shot of the athlete. They're using really fast shutter speed.
Volume, yeah.
And they're not capturing any movement. It's always these really still pictures. You don't look like you're moving at all. You look like you're so they're always a bit shit. But I've never seen a selection of 22 to 25 absolutely fucking awful photos. I don't remember doing that with my face all the way around, it appears.
Okay, come on. I gotta compose myself here. Firstly, well done on your 46 minutes. It certainly looks like you worked for it, though. Because for people who haven't checked, I am going to dedicate an actual post on the Talking Triathlon. Like, there will be an actual post on Talking Triathlon's Instagram that is one of these photos. But I'll paint you a word picture. It basically looks like he's screaming the whole way around the course. And it has been one of my favorite things to do this week. It's just Photoshop different things behind you, Photoshop you in front of different things. And like even before we were hitting record, which I can't stop laughing about this. Like, I honestly think it's just fantastic. I even wrote down a few different ideas that I have. Like, that's how much I'm enjoying this process. I think I've learned to use the AI generative fill on Photoshop better as a result of this. And it's just
Well, I
the
don't
best.
remember doing that with my face. I don't know why I was doing that with my face, but it does appear because if you look at the full range of pictures, that I was doing that with my face from about kilometer 2 to about kilometer 10.
That moment you realize that's what you look like when you're racing, like,
Yeah,
you suddenly
exactly.
have this horrible realization that every time you've ever done a race, that's your default like race face.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people try to look cool and calm, like it's not really an effort. Some people like Rico
But
Borgen look like they wear their
see,
emotions on their sleeve. You just look like you're screaming the whole way
see,
around.
if that's my face when I'm not paying attention to it in a race, it makes me wonder about what my face is doing in other moments in
I
my
was
life.
about to say that exact thing. What's your face doing at other times? Jesus. But these series of photos have like they're yeah. I'll put a post up this week for everybody listening. Um, yeah, it's wonderful. And again, I know our patrons got like they were loving all the different edits that we're getting shared in there. So, but
Yeah, the
congratulations on your
internet has
race,
some
mate.
fun. You inspired a few other friends of mine
Yes.
to go Photoshop heavy as well, and they were flooding in at one point.
I even worked out on using the AI on Photoshop that I can remove that guy who's blocking you, and it sort of automatically fills in the rest of your body. And it wasn't perfect, but now that I've got that as well, it frees up a lot of possibilities for other things that we can do. So
Well, my body's never been perfect, mate. So roll
I
with the
don't,
punches.
the AI does the weird like you suddenly have like six fingers and it's all like I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it does a bit of
yeah.
that stuff, but I thought, I won't worry too much about the details. It's
I
all
don't
about
really
that face.
understand that with AI. Whenever I've sort of been putting a post up for my other podcast, which is lots of trail running stuff. Whenever I've used an AI image generator and I say, "Oh, a woman winning a ultra marathon race," she always comes out with like three legs and four arms, and it's like I don't understand. AI is meant to be this sort of like creating humans with too many limbs doesn't compute in my head.
I mean, again, we've seen some of the things that AI has done about you. So
Yeah.
I was particularly proud of that little comment I put on one of your posts, was I thought you agreed not to share your AI posts publicly. Oh, anyway, that was
But
5 minutes.
imagine though, if you're not paying attention to your face, race face was actually that toothless gummed priest.
Well, at first it's like, this is better. This is top. This is just for a guy like, you've given the white tri-suit, is a whole other saga in the former MX Endurance podcast. Screaming Bale it's gonna like I want to open an art gallery and it's just a collection of images of the different places I've edited your mate. The possibilities are endless. So absolutely, absolutely wonderful.
How are you, mate?
No, good mate. I no, really, really good actually. My training is like phenomenal actually. I did maybe the best big call. I think I did the best training run I've ever done in my life on Sunday. I did a 29K run, 18K at like, not even, I don't know what you call it, like just sort of moving. Like for me, it was 450 pace, so not hard, not easy, and followed by 10K at goal marathon pace, which like, obviously as I get close to the race, that comes down. But at the moment, I think the target was about 417 for that 3 hour marathon. And I ended up averaging 409 for the 10K. And like
Nice.
it felt like I get to that 18K about to start the 10K and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, how am I going to do this? And then almost instantly, as soon as I started running, I was like, fucking hell, this ain't bad. And got through it. Like I think my last K was my fastest and didn't feel obviously it feels you're not just walking, but didn't feel like I was in under duress or anything. And I'm thinking, man, I've never been this run strong in my entire life. And looking at my run history, I've done the 3 biggest weeks of running of my life ever in a row. And in the lead
Nice.
up to that, I think I've never had this high volume, this consistently, this well. And I feel it, Matt. Like I actually feel I've got a 70.3 coming up in what, a month. And I'm actually really excited about the run because I've always traditionally gotten off the bike and survived. And I actually think I have a bit of strength this time. And look, I'm still not as fast as I used to be, I don't think, but the strength is there, and I'm really curious to see how that goes. So I'm frothing for it actually, which is a really unique thing for me. I'm just, yeah, really, really loving it, and yeah, it's good, really, really good. Really is the short version of that. Um,
Glad to hear it. Love to
yeah,
hear it. Good
yeah.
work.
Cheers, mate. If people want to get the inside scoop on photos of James screaming or Tim's training or our fantasy league, which is coming up this weekend, or any of those things, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. A few little shout outs. We actually had a number of new members sign up. So thank you all to everybody who's joined this last week. And the other thing, James, I wanted to mention is we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube this week as well, which is something we've been working towards. I think
The
when we
milestones.
Matt, yeah, it's really, really good. So thank you to everybody who subscribed. If you haven't already, please do. We really, really, I love to see it, and that's a really good place to interact with people. And most of the time, the interactions are really, really good and positive. So it is funny though. It's like there must just be one person who hates us, James. Well, I mean, there's probably plenty of people who hate us, but there's always like every video we get like 14 likes and one's a down like, or 15 and one's a down. I'm always like, I know it's the same person every time. Who are you? It's probably Joe Skipper because I always say he's not going to fucking win a 70.3 or something. But yeah,
I never noticed the down
you don't
likes.
see them. It doesn't show up publicly. I just because I'm in the back end, I see the analytics, and
Oh, okay.
it's always like one person down. Like, who are you? Who are you, downvoter? We'll find you. I have a particular set of skills. I will find you and I don't know, give you a hug. Jimbo. It's time to talk about triathlon. And I think a good place to start talking about triathlon is about the triathlons that have been. And we talked a lot about the championship last week. Oh, we didn't talk a lot about it. We talked about it, but the championship happened, and it's time to talk about it.
Yeah, man, it is indeed. Where do you want to start?
Women's. Let's start about the women's race.
Okay. So who
Yeah.
came out of the swim first? It was Caroline Pole, followed by Fenella Langridge. Um, but it was India Lee, wasn't it, that took control on the bike?
And
And
game
very,
over.
hey,
And game over after that.
it was indeed game over. And India Lee won it in 3:56:45 ahead of Laura Madsen with 59:52, and the third place was Anna Bergström in 4 hours 32 seconds. India Lee setting a new course record with her win there.
Now, I watched a bit, actually did watch a bit of the championship, to be honest. And firstly, I thought the broadcast was really good. Considering what we've been, and again, people will know this is a bit of a theme of things we talk about on this podcast. I was really, really impressed with what a good job they did. Obviously, I'm assuming that their budgets are a lot less than probably Ironmans or the PTO and things, but man, it was a really solid, decent race broadcast. I mean, yeah, but I guess the only thing is like watching it, I watched India Lee win the race, and I didn't really see much else other than that.
Yeah, but that's not something the broadcasting can really help, is it? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
the dynamic of how the race plays out is how it plays out, and sometimes watching a victory like that with that sort of domination is an art form in itself. I did see her on the bike, and she looks so composed and dialed in that bike position, doesn't she?
She like again, we've been aware of India Lee probably for a few years since she was one of Kat's paces at sub 7 and sub 8. And we're huge India Lee fans. She's just a wonderful human. But to see, I remember when Kat Matthews sort of told us she was picking India for her pacer team. She was like, India Lee's legit. And Kat Matthews obviously knows what she's talking about. But like to see the progression that India's had the last 18 months, even really, where like, something she's just gone to hyperdrive basically since this race last year, actually, the last 12 months, really. Not that she's not been great before that, but like she just seems to have, that momentum is built behind her. And mate, she was so dominant. Like
Yeah,
we've got people in our Patreon group who said they really think she's going to be one of the favorites for Nice this year in the women's world championships because the course really suits her and stuff. But yeah, mate, I am not surprised, but constantly impressed by just how well she's racing every time she lines up this year, and it's
two
exciting.
wins from 2024. She's showing that she's got some real form over the middle distance and that PTO distance. And she was 2 minutes, almost 2 minutes quicker over this race than she was 12 months ago.
And that's the thing, right? Like you can't always compare fields or placements or whatever, but you can compare results against results. And a 2 minute improvement is huge over that distance, especially when the percentages are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And beating
Uh,
Laura Madsen to second place by 3 minutes ish
Laura
is
Madsen is another one. I think she's a real athlete to watch at the moment. She's got that air about her that that athlete that comes through with the momentum. I have a feeling we're on the precipice of seeing some really big things from Laura Madsen as well. So watch this space. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about the women's race, to be honest, just because it was such a domination. And like again, watching it from it was very much about Indy. So yeah, that was the women's race. It was good.
good on her. Good on her. Congratulations, India. Great to see it.
Men's
Now,
race,
the men's race, you're going to enjoy this, aren't you?
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just I think we both agreed India would win it, didn't we? So I think we both got the women's pick right.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, I think it was a united front on that one.
Yeah, let's talk about the men's race.
On the men's race, Bogan and Durbrick battled at the swim. Joe Skipper not in a good place at that swim, eh? 3:15 back
Mm.
coming out of the swim.
Was it
17 men in the
3:15?
3:15, that's what it
That's
says
not.
here,
Oh,
yeah.
that's okay. That's not terrible.
There were 17 people in the front pack. So it was a big lump coming out of that swim with Frederick Funk coming out on the bike and dominating. But there was one man who came through on the one to take the win, eh?
The young Kiwi lad, Kyle Smith. Yes. No, I've been saying it for what feels like a year at this point, probably even longer.
Yeah.
Now Kyle is a like really really good athlete. But before I talk about Kyle, I just want to talk about the fact that yet again, Rico Borgen just is my favorite athlete to see on a start
Same.
list.
Same. He is the animator, isn't
Oh
he?
my God, man! I've talking about like what you look like during a race. I love how fucked he looks. And not
Mm.
and this I don't mean this sarcastically. I genuinely mean like I love seeing this kid because he's young, man. Like he's so young. Just give it absolutely everything, and I love it. I love the way he races. I love that he just, mate, it's so good, and it's every time he was on camera on the weekend, I put a smile on my face, is going, this is what I want to see, right? Like this makes
Yeah.
it. He's phenomenal, mate, and there was some great, like this was a great race. There was some really really strong performances here. You know, Frederick Funk, Christian Hogenhaug. You know, it was a real mate. Kasper Stepaniak, sorry. Like this Polish guy that we talk about athletes building with momentum. Kasper has just been going from strength to strength to strength. It's awesome.
Carl Smith won the race in 3:27.10. Frederick
So
Funk in
fast.
second in 3:29.24. Christian Hogenhaug in third with 3:29.56. But my shout out of the day goes to Rico, who with 2 laps to go, he was still on the podium. And it was only at the very end of the race that he faded and got past to finish in sixth in 3:32.12,
Mm.
which in itself isn't that far off the win,
Yeah.
It's only 5 minutes behind the winner with everyone else fading back towards that. So I've got a lot of time for that man and the way he races and the pressure he puts on and the situations he puts himself in.
Yeah.
Because you've got to he doesn't sacrifice the win for the sake of a sort of third, fourth, fifth place. He goes all in to see what he can do. And if he's there one day, it'll come together like it did on that 70.3 World Championship day.
It is one of the things that, again, if I had to sort of compare this style to another athlete, it is kind of like Sam Laidlow, because the difference is that Sam either looks the best in the world or he looks absolutely fucking shit. And I don't know, like Sam. I guess maybe now that you're a world champion, right, you have to sort of compose yourself suddenly, because when you watch like that footage of Sam Laidlow being passed by Sam Long in Miami, there's no emotion, no nothing. Whereas if you had to put Rico in that position, Rico's ass would have been hanging out, his face with dribble running down it. Like there really is, like, I really do respect that. I'm here to win or come 50th. I don't give a shit. Like I'm not here just to make up the minor placings. It's an approach to racing that, I mean, look, he's definitely going to love getting him on a podium. I'm not disputing, but there really is something that I love about the race. But these times, mate, like I was watching it, seeing the times, and I messaged Belinda, who was in commentary, and just said, "Is this a 70 point? Like, is this a 70.3 distance? Because the times are so fast." And she said, "No, no, definitely 70.3. I think there's a few meters here or there that's a bit short. James has got balloons for some weird reason." Um, Mate, how fast is this race? Like even for Joe, right? So, who Joe was 12th, I think it was 3:37. It's almost like, I think Joe's best before this was like 3:50 or something. We're talking about a
Yeah.
huge, like that's what I said to, I'm in a group chat with a lot of Joe's family and close friends and they always chat. I love it. They change the name of the group chat for every race Joe does. And like, that's what I said. I was like, in context, this performance is phenomenal for Joe because he's always been a bit shit at the middle distance. And that's a legit time, like, in a field of legit athletes. And I mean, Kyle Smith going 3:27, like
But does it matter?
no,
Does it matter? You know,
I
I'm
think,
a bit worried about where Joe is in the sport at the moment.
yeah, I get that. I think that it's been a rough trot for him. And again, like genuinely, we go into these 70.3s expecting a top 10 at best. Like there's never an expectation that Joe's gonna to win the thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is I look at that and I think that if he's made that level of improvement over the 70.3, you would expect it to extrapolate out to an improvement at the iron distance as well. So yeah, there's no denying Joe has a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He has had since that Lake Placid when he's done nothing. And well, nothing. He's done some bits and pieces, but like he has to. That Pro Series is still red hot, and he has to deliver, especially when you have athletes like Matthew Hansen. I'm sort of transitioning here, a bit of a segue, mate. Win Chattanooga 70.3. So we've got another Ironman Pro Series race happen over the weekend, the Chattanooga 70.3. And Matty Hansen, who was another one of those Ironman specialists, much like Joe Skipper, Patrick Lang, I'd put them in the same sort of bracket. Fucking won the thing, mate. Matt Hansen
Mm.
is one of the true gentlemen of the sport. Like I got to spend some time with Matt in Nice last year, and just a legend, like such a nice guy, such a great athlete. I was really happy to see Matt Hansen get up and again, beat Jackson Laundrie, beat Trevor Foley. These are guys that you'd normally expect to see beat the I guess the more iron distance specialized athletes. So for Matt Hansen to run through with that, what was his run time, 109 or something absolutely ridiculous like that?
Blistering,
Uh,
isn't it?
mate, good on him. And again, he's going for that pro series, so he's got those maximum points for a 70.3 now, which gives him a real, you know, put him on your radar, guys, because like the way this series works, that really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. He's I mean, he's just such a threat, isn't he? If he's within striking distance off the bike, you're in trouble. He's got that. He's a weapon.
It's almost like because I look at Patrick Lang, right? And Patrick Lang is the guy that we all know has one of the best runs in the sport. And if you look at what Patrick Lang has been doing this year, you can he's doing really badly at these 70.3s because he just doesn't have enough road to run up to people, right? Like what did he get off he got off the bike in Texas like 17 minutes down or something, but still ran through the field to win, where he's getting off the bike in these 70.3s with a similar gap. Like, he was in Mallorca, he was what, 14, 15 minutes down off the bike, but he's not able
Mm,
to make up that time in over 21K. Matt Hansen can.
yeah.
So I thought it was just again, I didn't watch the race. I've not really,
No, I don't actually have the results in front of me, the Chattanooga
I'm
race.
trying to get them up right now as we keep speaking. But yeah, just wanted to again, Jackson Laundry is another guy. Jackson Laundry is one Oceanside. He's always on podiums at really, really world-class races. So to see him, really beat a decent field, is, mate, like I said, just for Matt, I really, I'm not trying, I wouldn't have expected it. But we had in first place Matt Hansen with a 109. I was right, 109 half marathon to win in 3:41. Second place Jackson Laundry 3:42. So he ran 5 minutes faster, almost no, exactly 5 minutes faster than Jackson. Trevor Foley in third place with 3:42 as well. So even those two looks like it was a really, really close race. And then in the women's race, let me bring up the women's professional field. Emma Pallant-Brown won again. No surprises there. EPB is again. I'll pick it every time she races. What's with your balloons, mate? You're
I
really.
don't know. I'm not doing anything.
I think they think
I'm
your
not.
head's a balloon, so they're just like they think you're emoting. And um, for people wondering, Zoom does this weird thing where it just shoots up things sometimes, but it's doing a lot of balloons for James. Second place Jackie Herring and third place Sarah True. So again, really, I think closer. Emma only won by 40 seconds in Chattanooga, but Emma is again racing so much at the moment. She's doing everything, and
She's doing well, isn't she? It's good to see some consistent with victories as well, because previously you were picking her a lot and she was coming sort of she'd blown up a couple of times. She was not very well at one point, but it's good to see that having like a consistent run of form.
but
This is
again,
not yeah.
no, again, I shouldn't, but I still think, man, if she just carries this form, I'd love to see her have a crack at an Ironman. Again, I know
Mm.
she's sort of dabbled in the past, but I just think she's such a well-rounded athlete. So, um, another race that happened in America that I don't even think there was a pro field, but I want to touch on just because there's been a lot of people talking about it this week was that Morro Bay 70.3 event that happened. And I don't have much to say except for the fact that uh, was there over 300 people that had to be pulled out of the water in the swim, and there was some crazy DNF rate because the tides were so strong that basically people could not physically swim the course. Have you seen any of this footage on social media, mate?
No, I mean people keep sending it to me, but I haven't had the time to watch it yet. But I mean it just sounds fucking dreadful, doesn't it?
Water temperature was about 12 degrees Celsius, apparently. From what,
Mm.
again, look, I don't know if this is just, don't believe what you see in social media. This is just what I heard. So very, very cold water, and this tide came in, and you watch the people swimming, mate, and it's like they're on a treadmill. Like they go on nowhere. They're going absolutely nowhere. And we are quite vocal a lot, I think, about Ironman being a bit soft when it comes to canceling swims or, turn races into duathlons. It seems to be a bit of a thread. Uh, this looks like something should have had to be changed because, I mean, change the way they swim, change the direction they swim. Ironman's not opposed to a downriver swim, so I don't know why they didn't make them go with the current. That was possible. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I mean I just wonder whether they knew what they could have known beforehand. Because was it just a random riptide that came in? Was it something that happens often? Was it something predictable? Because local knowledge is always the key to these things, isn't it? And you wonder what they could have known or what they did know beforehand.
I mean, tides are pretty predictable, aren't they? Like,
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
yeah.
Most lifeguards at most beaches know where the riptides are.
Maybe what happened was when they did the course recce. the tide was going out or it was the opposite. So they're fucking hell, they're gonna love this. It's so
Yeah.
fast. This is going to be another hit on the Ironman fast course calendar, and it was the absolute opposite. I mean, the other factor, and again, I don't mean to throw shade. I don't know the facts, but I know that there's a lot of people doing Ironman races that the swim is not their area of expertise, and we are seeing, I think, a tendency of athletes to neglect the swim further and further. So maybe it is, again, I don't know. I'm not trying to throw shade, but maybe lack of swim
Yeah, I
skill might
mean,
be a factor as well.
it might be, but also when it comes to riptides or currents and things like that, it's all about where you are on the beach, isn't it? And
Yeah,
what direction you're swimming in, either you against it or whether you go with it. And that all comes down to when you're in a race situation, you don't have that autonomy.
yeah.
You are here, you are meant to swim over there, please. You don't have that sort of
Yeah,
I better get myself.
we're gonna put the boy right in the middle of the rip. There you
Yeah.
go. Good luck. I did a race years ago in a place called Nowra on the coast of Australia. It was a river swim, so you literally jumped in, swam one way up the river, chucked you, we came back down. I got stung by jellyfish in the first 400 meters, which was fun, but the tide was so strong. The same thing. I think like it was a 1500 minute. Let's say it took me, I don't know, 35 minutes to do it, but I remember it took me so long to go one direction. And my grandma had come to watch me race, and she was literally walking along the river next to me because I was going so slowly. And honestly, it was like you're swimming in place. And I remember being like, fuck this. And then you turn around, just like, boom, like hyperdrive.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely flew the other direction. So I have experienced that, and it is extremely frustrating. And it can be a bit scary, right, when you're in the swim and that happens because you get that feeling of helplessness,
Yeah, I mean,
especially.
I grew up swimming in the sea, surfing on the North Devon coast. So, people with an understanding of what's happening. You just take a moment and you understand what's happening. But like you say, if swimming isn't your area of expertise, you haven't got much open water experience, you've just trained enough to do a swim in the triathlon and survive it, then you find yourself in that situation. It can be quite stressful, I think, and also dangerous.
In a lot of the Asian races that I've gone to, because I do like to race in Asia a lot, I like the heat. Uh, Again, I'm not trying to generalize, but there does tend to be a weaker swim field. It's good for the ego because I often get out of the water like really, really far ahead of a lot of people. But they do a lot of stuff to try to assist. Like they'll have almost lane ropes the entire way. They have buoys and pontoons set up where people, if they need a break, they can take. And again, I'm all that stuff's
Well,
fun, but
I did a 70.3 in 2011 in a lake in North Devon. And halfway through the swim, you're in the middle of this lake, and there's like this underwater island bit that's about half a meter. And so you're swimming along, and people were standing up and walking and taking a little break halfway through the swim.
Aussie exit with the difference.
Yeah,
That's the Devon exit.
yeah, yeah.
I did a race in New Zealand once, and that was the tide shifted so much that it was basically you could walk, and they're like you can't walk, and everybody just got up and like ran around the buoys and stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like yeah, good for that, but yeah, okay, cool. The next thing I want to talk about is some positive news in the world of Skye Moench this week. One of our favorites, uh,
Absolutely.
Skye and
Great
Matt
news.
expecting their first child, so
Love to
which
hear
is
it.
fantastic.
Congratulations, both.
Yeah, I don't have much to say except congratulations. And again, I think we're in a really fortunate position that athletes like Skye, Holly Lawrence as well, have options with the PTO's maternity leave program and things like that. So,
Absolutely. I mean, it's good
uh,
to see the sport is moving in that direction,
yeah,
and James is a good name for a baby.
it is, I mean,
So
like I mean, we know what the baby will look like screaming now. So it's a really, if you want to sort of see, we can maybe that's what I'll do. I'll find a baby and I'm gonna Photoshop a photo of your screaming face, and that's what. Yeah, again, we're just huge Skye Moench fans, and yeah, congratulations, Skye. I think it's excellent.
So talking about people going really fast,
Yes,
do you want to talk about Lanzarote?
let's do it, mate. Let's.
Yeah.
What what a ass whooping. I don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah. I
else to say.
mean, what a fucking rampage Anne Haug went
Jesus
on.
Christ.
She had 5 minutes out of the water. She had 20 minutes at the start of the run. And by the end of the run, she was almost 45 minutes ahead of second place. So
Jesus Christ.
it was a gun to tape domination. She put a run split in of 2:49, which is the second fastest marathon outside of Challenge Roth. Her second fastest marathon outside of Challenge Roth. Um,
It's not an easy course either.
She rode a bike record of 5:17:49, which, it's not an easy fucking
Yeah,
course. She did the swim in 54:26. So she was flying, man.
absolutely flying. And it's funny how often we see Anne Haug go to Lanzarote and impress us. She's done the 70.3 there a number of times, but like, man, and what is 42 this year? 42-year-old, and just seems to be
Yeah, I
getting
mean,
better.
she won the race in 9:06:40 ahead of Janine Cotledge of France in 9:50:24. So, almost 45 minutes ahead with Lydia Dant in third in 9:54:54. So the second and third had a little bit of a race, but first place was way ahead. And now it's amazing, such an impressive performance. But I think it also shows us that um, when you've got the Pro Series as it is, you're gonna have bigger discrepancies in the races that are outside of that Pro Series because you're not gonna quite get the fields drawn in. But as an individual performance, this was incredible.
When you look at it for that point, because there has been plenty of options now in terms of races, where in late May we've had a number of PTO races, we've had a number of Ironman Pro Series races, and we haven't seen Anne Haug at any of them except for this one. Why do you think that is? Like, if you had to look at the, I mean, obviously she needs to tick the box to get the Nice qualification, and based on this performance, fucking look at Nice. But like, is it? And I mean, we've not really. She's been injured. Like, I don't really understand where it is, but whatever it is, like, fuck me, it's
Yeah.
it's obviously worked. But geez,
But
like,
she loves this race.
yeah,
Maybe she just needed that confidence play to come out and have this sort of dominant victory.
there's no weakness, mate. There's no weakness. There's
No. And
people
especially
forget.
on a course like Lanzarote, someone like Anne who's very slight of frame. She's a light athlete. So, a course like Lanzarote, the winds and the climbs and the heat, she's gonna fare well there and fare well she did.
Yeah, again, I think that this gives really good indications pre-Nice this year. I
Totally.
think that Anne is rapidly moving to the top of my list of favorites for that race based on this performance. But just again, such a well balanced thing. And again, I think it was Tom in our Patreon WhatsApp group said third fastest run overall, including the men. Like, that's madness, man. She's so good.
Do
And
you want to read out the men's results for us?
yeah, okay, I'll just find them, mate. Give me 2 seconds. I will do that. Anything else you'd like to say about Anne Haug's performance while I madly try to get the results up?
No, I think, running a run split like that after a bike course like this, I think that buttresses your point about Nice really well because it's a very mountainous course with plenty of hills in Lanzarote with the heat and the wind. And
You fuckwit.
and it mirrors Nice. Yeah, good luck. So who won the men's race?
I can just see people on their keyboards already talking about how disrespectful we are.
I've got no fucking idea how to say that, if I'm honest.
Kenneth Van den Drijsche. Is it pretty
Yeah,
good?
Van der Streich, maybe.
Van der
Van den Streich.
Van den Drijsche.
Van
Kenneth
den
Van den
Drijch.
Drijsche. And this is literally the first time I've seen that name ever in my life. So it's not a
Ever,
lack
yeah.
of effort. Second place we have Jordi Monteveta Moya. That was a bit easier, from
Mm.
Spain. And in third place we have Mikel Ugarte Ramos, also from Spain. So
Yeah.
um,
First place in 8:29:54.
what was his name?
Um, Kenneth van der Streich, I believe, from Belgium.
Van den Drijsche.
Van den
Oh,
Drijch. Yeah.
sorry,
I'm not
Kenneth.
sure whether I
It's
should be putting
brutal.
the French or the Flemish accent on that, but probably butchered it either way.
Jesus, it's brutal. But yeah, no, very, very good racing from Lanzarote. Again, I think you make a good point though. There's definitely a difference now with most races, because some of those South Africa had Reef and stuff. Australia had Sam Appleton, Mike Phillips. Like, we see some of these Ironman Pro Series races still having decent fields, but you're not seeing the depth, right? You see one or two names rather than 10. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's anyway, talking at
Yeah,
the
I mean,
pitch.
and look, I think it's the ideal environment for someone like Anne who loves that race, who is so performs so well there to go. And if she's not been getting the results she's wanted so far this year, this goes and gives her all the confidence in the world going into Nice because it's like it's kind of like a Nisi course.
Mm. I
Windy, hot, climby,
I also think when you're an
flat,
athlete, yeah, when you're an athlete like Anne Haug, who
run.
could win a world title, like could win Nice, like I get the whole like, you know what, I'm just going to go pick a race I've got a very good chance of securing that slot, right? Compared to, these guys like Joe Skipper, right, hasn't qualified for Kona yet, and we're getting to May, like the opportunities are getting less and less and less. And yeah, so I think it's quite a smart play for me. She can now go to the T100 races, prepare for Nice, probably win the thing, and then focus on the T100 again. And I mean, I'd love to see Anne go to Topor in the end of the year as well. I think that's a course that will really suit her. And I just think she's getting better and better, mate. Like it's phenomenal, and I love to see it. We got an email from the PTO today or
We
overnight
did.
for me, and this is because we spoke about a few weeks ago briefly, but we talked about the fact that we are seeing the first athlete who is going to miss their contractual obligations by not racing the T100 San Francisco in Max Neumann, and we were sort of wondering, what happened to Max? Where's Max been? And more from that, we were curious about what will actually happen with the T100 series with athletes who failed to meet their contractual obligations. And the time, it's funny the timing because they had that press release that came out last week saying that Max has invoked the injury clause. So there's no, I guess,
Yeah.
penalty for him. But you want to go through I guess, the specifics of exactly how it works? Because I know this is something a lot of people have asked. And again, I'm assuming they shared it with us so that we could talk about it because that's what
Yeah.
they do.
Well, to clarify what you said about Max, he's stated his intention to return to professional racing next month after an injury layoff that has seen him sidelined for over a year. He was contracted to the T100 Triathlon World Tour in 2024. The PTO has announced that Newman's been the first athlete to invoke the T100 injury clause this season. The clause allows an athlete to miss two of their contracted six T100 races. And there is a full explanation of how that works on the PTO website, but
Yep.
also on the Try 24/7 website where they've copied it across. The PTO, they responded to our question about, what happens if an athlete doesn't invoke the injury clause and starts missing more than their allotted amount of races. They said when a race isn't missed due to injury, so outside of the injury clause, the PTO has a fair amount of discretion that can be applied. We have the right to administer penalties and or even exclude someone from the series. So depending on the reason for an athlete not meeting their obligations, the penalty may be higher or lower. The contract amounts are paid in installments as athletes meet their individual event obligations. So if an athlete misses one, they're automatically docked that money, plus the $2,500 minimum prize money for competing. So it's a fair financial whack to miss one considering the value of the contracts. Then there's the knock-on effect it could have on an athlete's overall finish in the series. One less race to put in a good performance. So they're sliced of the 2 million series end prize pot. The counterexample would be that if an athlete still travels to the event and promotes the race and gets involved in other capacities, the PTO may decide to still pay their installment, but that's completely up to the PTO.
Yeah. So kind of what we expected, I suppose.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, if I was an athlete and I had to miss a race, I'd probably invoke the injury clause.
Mm, definitely.
That's a very difficult that's a very difficult thing to prove or disprove, isn't it?
Well, when you suddenly start to layer these things together, right? So athletes, they can miss two races each season. They're allowed to miss two. Hey, again, I can't. Why am I doing this right now? They can miss two races, but suddenly they have an additional two races they can miss through injury. So theoretically, they only have to do four
Cool.
races total.
Mm.
And again, when you start to look at it that way, you're like, okay, things are starting to shift. And I don't think this is going to be the first time we see athletes invoke the injury clause. I think there might be a few athletes, injured around those World Championship races in September, October. But again, I give them credit. It certainly shows that they are putting that mantra of athlete first forward when they're giving these athletes plenty of options to not breach and deal with the realities of a very full season. I think the issue, and again, this doesn't apply to Max because Max hasn't raced anything, but I think
Mm.
it'd be a hard pill to swallow for the PTO when you see your athletes invoking injury clauses or not doing your races that they're contracted to do and then going to do an Ironman race instead.
Yeah,
I
well,
think that's
there's a thing in here.
yeah.
Um, It says a recently made public feature of the injury clause, according to the PTO, allows athletes to miss 2 of their contracted races through injury in exchange for marketing work. The organization states that by working with the PTO on alternative marketing activations which help promote the T100 tour, athletes will not see their compensation impacted if they're forced to miss races. The clause also dictates that in addition to the marketing work, the athletes also have to prioritize the tour as racing in another event within 15 days, either side of a PTO tour event, and not racing in the tour event will count as a missed event. So
That's good.
you
That's
can't
good.
invoke the injury clause and then fuck off and race a different brand's race and be like,
Yeah.
I got better, because
Yeah.
that will
So,
they'll dock you prize money and dock you
yeah,
the
but again,
money.
here's the interesting, I guess the addendum, right? Let's say you do it, like let's say you do a race, you do the Ironman Nice, and you get injured, like actually injured in that race, crash your bike. That's within 15 days of Ibiza, right? It's after. I think Ibiza's the week after.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. That would be in it. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Because
mm,
if you can't see the future,
correct.
so if you are racing in Nice and then you come off your bike and break your leg, you've got a very clear and obvious injury.
But you've
But you
achieved,
race,
yeah, it's
but you
breaches that
race, you
clause.
breach the 15-day clause. So are you then going to not be allowed to have the injury?
Put
That's an
the
interesting one.
put the
People from the
T100 hat
PTO,
on.
give us
I'd
a
put the
shout and give us an answer on that.
I would assume then that that's sort of a scenario they kind of want to factor in because they don't want athlete like you'd assume, right, that you'd be going, well, we don't want athletes to consider doing that race a week
Yeah.
before because we want them to focus. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Again, it's I understand the after the event thing, but I think before things do get a little bit tricky because you're right, who knows what happens. The PTO is very good though. I can't see them coming down too hard on it now, maybe in the
No,
future, but
like you said, there's a fair amount of discretion that can be applied. So I assume there's going to be sensible heads making sensible decisions.
well, speaking of discretion and sensible heads not making sensible decisions, let's talk about Cagliari World Triathlon Championship Series race this weekend that is happening. Because for lots of countries, in particular Team GB, this is it, mate, when it comes to Olympic
Yeah.
selection.
The
And
final Olympic distance race of the WTCS before the Paris Olympic Games in the summer.
yeah,
The Paris Duathlon in the summer.
yeah. So what have we got, mate? Do you have the start list there?
Do I have the start list? I've got like an article that gives me some names.
You go
All
that one,
eyes
I'll
will
get
be
the
on the
start
Team
list.
GB squad with Sophie Coldwell, Georgia Taylor Brown, and Kate Waugh battling out for the 2 remaining spots in the team alongside Beth Potter. Um, so far, Waugh is the only athlete to have completed a WTCS finish in 10th in Yokohama. Waugh also beat Coldwell by more than half a minute in Malia World Cup, where she finished second behind Emma Lombardi. Um, there's no set criteria for the British team in Cagliari. A strong result will play a big part in securing a discretionary spot alongside Potter. Therefore, it'll be all for play for when the trio of Olympic hopefuls line up in Sardinia on Saturday. Another narrative on race day will be the head-to-head between Cassandra Beaugrand and Potter as the 2 gold medal favourites battle it once more after Potter took the spoils in Super Tri E-World Championship last month. Beaugrand will be joined by teammates Lombardi and Peru, who will look to
Perrier.
join her. Perrier, yeah, who will look. Why can't I fucking speak French? Who will join her at the start line on Paris. They probably won't have to take a plane to the event. Um, who else is
Yeah,
there?
that's
Laura
it's
Lynn,
so
Flora
stupid.
Duffy, Taylor Knibb,
I want the start
um,
list up. Oh, there we go.
Taylor Spivey, Kirsten Casper, Summer Rappaport, Kate Severes.
Let's see. I've got them.
Uh,
It's coming up now. Give me a second. Okay.
Jorgensen's is out.
So we've got on the start list Leonie Perrio, Taylor Knibb, Emma Lombardi, Taylor Spivey, Kirsten Casper, Flora Duffy, Lauren Lindemann, Kate Woff, who else? Bianca Seragini, the young Italian who's an excellent swimmer, Alice Beto, Victoria Lopez, Miriam Cassias, Ainsley Thorpe from New Zealand, Verena Steinhauser from Italy as well, Claire Michelle from Belgium, Gian Lahair. Who else we got there? Dominica Dominici from Canada, Charlotte McShane from Australia, Natalie Van Coverden, Olivia Matthias from Great Britain, Nicole van der Kay from New Zealand, Yuki Sato from Japan, Mike Kingma's on the start list again from the Netherlands, Summer Rappaport, Beth Potter, Cassandra Beaugrand, Georgia Taylor Brown, Sophie Colwell, Katie Zafiris, Katia Shah, Like it's a who's who of racing. Sophie Lynn from Australia, Lottie Miller from Norway. Yeah, there's a lot happening here, especially for, again, we keep talking. I mean, to me, France is a done deal, right? And as that article says, it's going to be Beaugrand, Emma Lombardi, and Leonie Perriot. I think the French women's team is sorted. The two teams that are not sorted in the women's is Team GB, Great Britain, and the
And
US
America.
team. And
Yeah, yeah.
we sort of talked on this last week. I think I named the article or the episode last week. Can Gwen Jorgensen still qualify for Paris? I don't think so. I know
No,
she's still trying to get on this start list, but I don't think she can because she got
no,
subbed
the
out.
Katie Zaveras is racing, and it says that the US have decided to substitute Gwen Jorgensen for Zaveras. So
Yeah, which I know was a bit controversial a few weeks ago, but I think that it's done it again. It's your head, mate. They really, I think that, reading between the lines, right, which is all you can do, and that's all we sort of do. We can speculate and sort of guess what we think is happening. I would assume that US have sort of in their minds put Katie Zaferes ahead of Gwen in terms of their selection. And I think what they
yeah,
want to do is they just want to give her an opportunity to sort of confirm that for
yeah,
them, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, they've got what? How many slots have they got alongside Nib? Two.
Two more.
Yeah, so they've got Spivey, Casper, Summer Rappaport, and I think what they're gonna do, like you say, is Gwen Jorgensen's a no-no. Katie Zaferes is in that pool now, and they're gonna use this race as a decider to see who gets those
Now,
two spots.
we had a few people reach out to us on Instagram this week, giving us their thoughts. Some were personal, mine, some were on our Instagram account at Talking Triathlon. And one of the comments was, US want you, and I'm sorry I can't remember your name, but thank you for listening. Thank you for getting in touch. Was that US want Olympic medal contenders, and statistically Taylor Spivey is almost guaranteed not to get a medal. Like she's always
Or
fourth or abouts. It's just crazy idea. And again, I don't necessarily agree with this, but could you see a scenario where they actually, because it's a valid point, right? Like as much as we praise Taylor, she's finished fourth more than, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. Do you think there's a potential where they go, you know what, Taylor's like, she's great and she's done everything, but we just don't see her being a medal threat?
yeah,
Could
it's
they
the
pick
it's the Johnny Brownlee conversation again, isn't it?
Katie and
On the
Gwen? Imagine if they went Katie and Gwen.
Oh, yeah, that would be unique, wouldn't it?
But you
God,
know
you'd
what?
be
Like,
pissed.
you
You'd
could
be pissed if
actually,
it was Summer or
oh, you'd be absolutely ropeable. But if you look at them, I mean, you could make, and I'm going to draw on a long bow here. You could make an argument for it if you're going, well, though, like we spoke about it
they
last
know
week.
how to win medals.
100%. You've suddenly got
Mm.
three Olympic medalists on your start list, and you would rather, we talked about it with Rico Borgen at the start of this episode, right? Take the big swings. It's either a medal or 20th. There's a scenario where I could see that happening maybe. The only thing that sort of saves Spivey for me, and apart from the fact that she's been excellent, and I think she should be picked, is how good she is at that super sprint distance. So I think you're sort of securing up that super sprint. But then you got Katie, who, has been exceptional at super sprint. Taylor, who we don't really see do it that often, but was part of the silver medal team in Tokyo. So it's an interesting, suddenly,
Yeah,
if you look at it that way, maybe.
it's a very unique dynamic going into this race. It's going to be interesting. It's Taylor Spivey for the win, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
That
mate.
would be cool.
How that was one thing that I found really hard to watch at Yokohama, knowing that she needed a podium to secure the spot and seeing her get fourth, and that gap just getting
Yeah,
too big, and you could see she was trying so hard to bridge up, and just thinking it's like fucking poor. Like, what this poor thing just keeps always happening, and
mm,
uh, I mean I'm going to pick it for fourth place this weekend on the fantasy picks. That's what I
yeah.
do.
It would
Uh,
be cool. I'm really interested to see where Katie Zaveras is because she's such a cool athlete.
She has a good athlete. She's going to the Olympics. I think I would
Yeah.
be willing to say that. Fucking hell, mate. Your balloons are, it's party time in Bristol. But no, I think Katie Zaferes, if she has a decent performance here, top 10, maybe
Yeah.
top 15, I could see her getting the nod. Which I think is, Summer Rappaport. Because again, like we know Summer is, I mean, she was terrible in Yokohama, but we know that if you had to factor in one reason why Summer Rappaport is terrible in a race, it is when there's technical elements on a bike. As soon as you add a
Uh,
technical element, she goes backwards. Paris course
or
isn't very
rain
technical.
or anything like that. And you won't have rain in the summer in Paris. So,
Team GB, I think it's a lot more straightforward than the US selection. I think it's whoever comes, I think the two athletes who finished highest out of those three, I think they're going to the Olympics. I think it's a
Yeah,
three-way battle between
I agree. I
Sophie
think Team
Georgia.
GB have got they've got a more clear-cut sort of confidence decision to make because they're all good athletes here and they want to make an informed decision based on who's running, who's got the form right now, and who's got the confidence going in. And I think this race will show that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm most curious about Sophie Coldwell because we've only seen Sophie do that European race and she was behind Kate. Kate went and did the Yokohama race where Kate made a real statement, swim bike, went to the front early on the run and sort of faded back. And again, personally, I think that's a really, smart approach to take considering there was nothing on the line with Yokohama for a selection point of view, but it was all about Cagliari, so not, putting that massive fatigue in. God, it really is there's balloons nonstop.
I think it's my head.
It must be your head. No, I think that yeah, there's a lot. Again, we talk about inside baseball. There's a lot of stuff going on here to sort of see. I do just find that article though frustrating when it's like Team GB have no clear criteria. It's like fuck. Well, there's too much discretion. But anyway, that's that. Let's turn our attention to the men's race, mate, because there's plenty of action in the men's field and men's
Yeah,
racing.
I mean, we've got Hayden Wilde and Alex Yee both lining up for the first time in a while, and it's going to be, basically a dress rehearsal for Paris for those two.
I'll go through the start list, and I'm not listing everybody. I'm just naming the names that I think are worth discussing in that. You got Morgan Pearson, Leo Berger, Martin Van Riel, Vincent Louis, Kristian Blummenfelt, Vettel Thorn, Matt McElroy, Jonas Schomburg. Who else we got? Mark DeVay, Taylor Reid, Seth Ryder. I know that we have got Hugo Milner on there, Callum McCluskey, who's the guy who it's the first time we're going to see Callum race Hayden after he sort of took the piss out of Hayden a little bit at that finish line in New Zealand. Hayden Wilde, Alex Yee, Pierre Lacour, Tim Hellwig, Tyler Mislichuk's back after his crash, Max Stapley's on there, Henry Schoeman's on there, Sam Dickinson, Barclay Izzard. Now, again, to me, this is suddenly three athletes that really stand out to me. And it's a funny three athletes because it's not who you'd originally expect, but who, if you had to pick the three danger athletes on that start list right now, who are they? Two of them are obvious.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden and Yee.
Who's your third?
Um, I don't know what you're referring to. Who are you referring to?
Morgan
Give
Pearson.
me your third.
Morgan Pearson.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good shout. Yeah, he's running in a rich vein of form.
And he's the only one on that. Look, I mean, I'm sure others, these balloons are killing my life. He can run with those two. Now, some
Yeah,
interesting things that have happened since, because, we've traditionally said that, and I've said it 100 times, Alex has Hayden's number. Alex can run on Hayden's shoulder and drop him towards the finish. Hayden's now run that. He's, what do we think? The fastest 5K by a triathlete ever. So he's got a
yeah.
better fresh run. Like on paper, I mean, not that Alex has
On
gone and done it.
paper, he can do it. It comes down to what's in his head, doesn't it? How they've raced, what the fatigue levels are like in the legs, what he's had to do on the bike, what he hasn't had to do on the bike, and then what's in his head when they are shoulder to shoulder, having not beaten him on a run before.
Kristian. Now, Kristian's come out after Yokohama saying that he was disappointed and he expected more from the result. I think I certainly did. However, I wasn't surprised because as much as those Norwegians love to break the rules and, we've got to sort of rip the rule book up, there is this sort of like confirmation, right? And this idea that you can't successfully go from Ironman back down to Olympic distance. And
Yeah.
all reports or all indicators are that does seem to be the case with Kristian. But it's still fucking Kristian Blummenfelt, right? So I can never say for sure don't factor him in. Like if he
No,
wins
and
this
also
thing,
top 10, you're still one of the very fucking best in the world.
I think it speaks.
It's
Yeah,
not like he finished 30th, 40th. It's not like he DNF'd. He finished in the top 10.
it's the way he
And
did it though. It's the way he did it, mate. Like he got dropped badly off that lead group. Like he went backwards, mate. And I think it's
yeah,
more because you're 100% correct. And I again don't forget I will never forget. 2021 World Triathlon Championship Series World Champion Kristian Blummenfelt. I know you listen, Kristian. You know we love you, mate. I think it is more that we set such a high standard of expectation with Kristian because of everything he has done before and the excellence that he has always shown that a 10th place in a WTCS field does feel like a disappointment. I think that's probably more. It's because you're right? The top 10 in these fields is absolutely unbelievable. But Kristian, I mean, he said it right. That's not the sort of results he's after. And
But also, that's not the race that matters.
mate, and this is this. Thank you, because this is I don't fucking trust him. I don't trust
No,
Kristian.
neither do I. And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yokohama's not the race that matters.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe it does if you're an athlete trying to build their confidence going into their first Olympics. But when if you're an athlete like Kristian Blummenfelt, you've got an Ironman World Championship, 70.3. You've fucking won Olympic medals. You've been the WTCS
Yeah,
World
don't forget
Champion.
that
You're
one,
not,
mate.
yeah, you're not. I don't know. I don't trust the boy.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we're going to see a resurgence from that man.
I am. There's no world in which I do not have him on that pontoon in Paris if it's a swim, not expecting him, not thinking he's capable of winning the race. Like, there's no universe that I would never, ever, 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 ever bet against him. Like, it's just he's Kristian fucking Blumenfeld, right? Like, he's like Batman. He's always got a plan. These guys are like 16 steps ahead of everybody else. Um,
So
yeah,
you know who's not racing?
yes, I do, which is interesting.
The most decorated triathlete in Olympic history is not relining up.
It's nuts, man, isn't it? Like, again, we talked about the fact that this is such an important selection race for the UK and Johnny Brownlee not racing it, especially after being awful in Yokohama. I have a feeling that he is not worried about the Olympic distance race. I have a feeling that he is going to be picked as like just go around the course in the Olympic and focus solely on the individual, so the mixed team relay. I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think look, we don't have any inside knowledge. We've got no inside baseball on this, but I would assume this is just an educated guess that if he's not racing this, then he may have been given the nod already. Not to worry too much. Go and rest up, recover, and find your form because he may not be out of the three others who are there. I mean, he's just got
He's still
that.
the highest finish of them, to be honest. He's still probably of
Yeah,
those athletes, he's the
he
strongest. But
knows how to win medals as well. He's proven that many
and
times over.
I saw Tim Hemming made this comment on Twitter a few weeks or X, whatever it's called, a few weeks ago, and he said, when you look at it, like he's still right up there with the swim and bike. His swim and bike is the same level as everybody else's. It's the run where he's really suffering, and the mixed team relay is like what 1 mile run, 2 kilometer,
Yeah.
1.6 kilometer run. He can fuck that. Like you can fake that. That's a distance where he has the class and the experience that he can still get through that and be competitive. So yeah, I think you're right. I think him not being there speaks again. You
Speaks
sort of
volumes.
speaks volumes, right? And I have a feeling that that's the case. The other team. I mean, we talk about the women's jeopardy. I think the biggest one is the French, especially after Dorian Connex confirmed the broken elbow and wrist. He's not on the start list at this race. They need a top 6 finish to secure the spot. Pierre Lecour, Leo Berger, and Vincent Louis are all there this weekend.
Mm.
Man, like talk about races within races. Uh, I also have a feeling that Pierre Lecour, top 6 finish, secures his spot. Okay. Top 6 finish in this field is a big ask, but he's definitely capable of it. But beyond that, I think it's the same. It might just be a straight shootout. The guys, if there's not a top 6 finish for Pierre Lecour, I think it's going to be whoever the two. I mean, it could be these all three of them, to be honest, based on what's happened with Dorian Connex. But uh, I expect Leo Berger to have a very good result here, based on what happened in Yokohama. He was up there until that crash happened and sort of derailed him a little bit.
Yeah,
But
and Vince Louis he's like the French talisman, isn't he?
mm, man, there's a but yeah, there's a lot to talk about. I don't know. The French. I have no idea. Right? So much
No.
depends on Dorian Connex. I would be surprised. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, just we touched on a little bit. But Alex Yee, Hayden Wilde, we haven't seen Alex Yee much this year. Like I'm
No,
again
we haven't. We
curious to see
certainly
where
haven't
they're at.
seen them line up together, have we? It's I'm curious to see how this goes because how far from the Olympics are we?
2 months.
2 months, 2 months, just under. um,
Just
just
over.
over. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how they go against each other because I think we're in that zone now where mind games are going to come into it to a degree. You know, you're not going to see them racing as hard right now as they are going to be racing in that Paris event on that day where they're looking for a medal. So it's going to be an interesting affair. One of them might want to lay down a marker and say, look, you know, if you were Hayden, you might want the opportunity to show that you can beat the man before that day so that you're not having to show it on that day, or you do show it on that day, but it's not the first time you've done it.
The other thing I think it could be in the back of their heads now as well, especially after Yokohama, is a crash can happen, right? Like you guys can have your spot secured, you can be doing everything right, and there could be a guy goes down in front of you in a pack, and suddenly you got a broken wrist or elbow. Like there's so much on the line for these athletes. Like there really is so many things that are even outside of their control. Um, so yeah, you know, accidents happen at the back of the pack, right? So you might see these guys try to get to the front, but everybody knows that. And as we said with Yokohama, there is just so much pressure on qualification and that stress that crazy things can happen. I mean, we
Mm.
saw Tyler and Henry take each other out, or Henry took Tyler out in Yokohama. They're both on the start list again. I know Tyler was devastated. I mean, they both were, but Tyler says he's in the best form of his career. And this kid has had the worst luck of any professional triathlete in recent
Anyone
history.
I've ever fucking known doing anything, but at least he got away without injury, eh?
Okay, so to finish it up, let's make our podium picks, mate. Who are your, and I want play, I don't want just top, I just don't want three. I want first, second, third. And I expect
Oh,
to see the same ones on your fantasy pick for
yeah.
the league.
Okay.
Let's go with the women's first.
Women's first. So
It's a lot, mate. It's a big one.
it is a big one. It is a big one. Beth Potter for the win.
Okay.
Cassandra Beaugrand in second.
Yep.
And Taylor Nibb in third.
Interesting. Good choice. Good choices. I think that's a really, I think that's a legit selection. I'm gonna be different just because I understand what's going on with that British selection. I'm gonna go. Oh, do I? Now here I'm a bit more. I'm gonna say Georgia Taylor Brown for the win. Cassandra Beaugrand. No, no. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna go Cassandra Beaugrand second. Kate Woff third
Okay.
in the men's.
In the men's, I mean, this is just a fucking toss of a coin, isn't it, really? I
I mean,
mean,
that's mad.
Alex Yee is the obvious favorite going in, but do we factor in the fact that we're quite close to the Olympics? Um,
You want me to go first? I'll do it. I don't mind.
no, I'm gonna it's easy to look like a fool here, isn't it? I'm gonna pick Hayden for the win,
Yeah, fair. Good shout, mate.
and I'm gonna have Alex Yee in second,
Yep.
and I'm gonna have Leo Berger in third.
I have well, Hayden doesn't have any other way to race but to try to win the thing. Like he ain't a guy who's just gonna like I'm just gonna like Hayden will go for the win. So I think that's a very good shout. I'm gonna put Leo as the winner. I'm gonna put Leo Berger in first. I'm gonna put Hayden Wilde in second, and I am going to put Pierre Lacour in third.
Fair enough.
Again, I have just making this up. I don't know, and I probably will. I don't hold you to that. Needs to be the same with the fantasy. I'm going to think a lot more about what I put on that fantasy
No,
league.
I've just populated my fantasy league as you were talking
It's
because I knew I'd forget who I picked.
it's tough, man. Like there's so many names on this list, and it could go. There's so many things that could happen. So I'm really looking forward to this race. And again, I've said it before, guys. If you haven't already, check out the World Triathlon broadcast is much better this year. So it's actually worth watching. Um, yeah,
It's nice going into a race like this with that degree of mini races within all those different federations and to see how people perform.
Trevor, if you're listening, stop talking about the Olympic qualification the whole time, though. There's other stuff to talk about during the race. Jimbo, other things that people might want to talk about or find out about from us, they can do by what? Where do they go to find out more? And
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Instagram, and I'm at Bale.James85 on Instagram. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Instagram, at Talk Triathlon on Twitter, and you can join the Patreon group. You'll have access to the monthly bonus episode and the social group, and we'll put you in the WhatsApp group. You'll get all manner of chats and goodies and pictures and Tim's editing prowess in there.
All the good stuff. Jimbo, a pleasure again, guys. YouTube.com. Please jump over there, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah, it's a good place to comment. Give us your thoughts. Give us your picks. Comment below who you think is going to podium in Cagliari, or who you'd pick for the US women's team. All those things. We love having the discussions.
We do.
Jimbo, a pleasure. We'll be back next week.
Cheerio.